Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I am your host, Corey Barrier, and I'm here with my man, Justin Tidd. What's up, Justin?
What's up, man? Doing good. Yeah, living life.
Living life. So Justin and I connected back in October at Arete Live, and we've just, kind of hit it off. Justin has been in the bodybuilding space for quite some time, and that's not – it's not his whole story, but that's what I can relate to because I was in the hormone industry. So, and that's how I kind of got talking to Justin. And, what I didn't know and just found out is he's about to tell us how, he was, came from a super low income family. And now I didn't even know this, running a $35 million company. So, Justin, dude, I cannot wait to hear the story, my man. I can't wait to hear it. So let's rock and roll, brother.
Yeah, man. First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's kind of it's kind of crazy because it's always strange. As a kid growing up, and we were low income, but we weren't low enough income that we got government assistance. But my parents would work two jobs at some times, and I'd have a grandma would come in, help out once you clothes and shoes. I got one pair of shoe a year, right? And that was life. I knew, right? I knew other kids. I was really good at sports. So I always navigated those waters pretty well to where I was known by a lot of people because I was good at sports, but I wasn't popular, right? I wasn't a popular kid really growing up. But you know what was interesting, I think Ed mentions this too, is when you come from that kind of life, that low income life, you know what you do have and you know what you don't have. And so when I was about 10 years old, I went on a trip and my uncle was pretty successful and I saw how he lived. And so what I found out in that way on that trip was I found out what I didn't have, that what I could get. And from that point on, I was like, I'm gonna have this. I will get this. 10-year-old kid just, didn't have much, couldn't get a quarter candy bar sometime at the grocery store, right?
Now, but Justin, what did your uncle do that, what kind of work was he in that made you kind of see this new life?
Yeah, see, he was the vice president of a pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
And so it was my dad's sister's husband. And then they didn't have any kids. And so they would bring me and my brother and, bring us up Christmas gifts. And we were 10. He decided to fly me and my brother down. That was the first time I've flown to his house. And that's where I got to see this, experience this, because I'd never been to their house before. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's really interesting when we, I don't know if I've ever – I can't remember if I've ever heard Ed say that or not, or if I had, maybe I phased it out. But when you said that, it's so interesting that when you don't know what you don't know, right? And then when you do know, you can't really get it out of your head if it's something that you just desire more, something that you're just so attracted to, so something that you want so badly that you do what you got to do to get it. You know what I mean? And I don't mean like illegally. I mean like, you work your fucking ass off to get these things in life. And I guess the reason is because, you think that they're going to make you happy. And don't get me wrong. Possessions absolutely play a part in everyone's life, to an extent. Now, is it going to make you happy for the rest of your life? Probably not. But I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I'm a happier person when I got money in my pocket than when I'm not.
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Money does buy some sort of happiness. I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm not saying it's everything, but I know it's leveraged itself to me as I've grown into a career and been able to afford things that I never had before. There is some happiness that it creates inside, right? I mean, I would rather have a little bit of money and have opportunities to share with my family and my kids than be worked so hard and not have those opportunities. There's some happiness that is created with that.
So true. Yeah, so true.
Yeah, and I grew up a little bit. It was funny because my same uncle, he died, I don't know, 12 years ago, probably from leukemia. But he told me to get in the healthcare industry, And so I looked into that. I was going to college for that, and I quit and got into marketing and business. So I got my undergraduate degree, and then it was funny because if you remember back in like 2000, everybody to have a job, you had to have a bachelor's degree, right?
That's right.
And so it was like, okay, I'll go get the bachelor's degree. I'll check the box. And then I was like, well, how am I going to differentiate with all these millions of people that have to have that degree? So like, well, I'll get a master's degree. Okay, I'll at least put myself in that little pool. So I did that, right? And all this time as I was going to college, I was working with the company I'm with now. But I say all that to say this too is I'm not one to believe in degrees. I'm really not. You know, society at that point in time kind of put that in place that if you were going to work with a big company, you had to have it. I don't think that gears passion or what somebody's going to do or what their outputs be for a company. So I did that, got through it. And then at that time, I was just growing with my company. I was a salesperson. I covered the whole East Coast. I moved into a management position. I became a director of sales and marketing. And then it was basically like every 2 years. And then now, our last 3 years, I've been a chief sales officer and a board member for our company. And so I went from that, basically growing up, to responsible for $35 million. I cover North and South America as my responsibility. So yeah, I have a whole sales team, distributors, and representatives underneath me.
So, Justin, I gotta say, for years, all my listeners already know this by now, but I'm a convicted felon because I got caught with cocaine in 2005, and I didn't graduate from college. So, those two things, truly, I felt like for years I had a belief that I was not going to make it because of those two things, and and in part partially because it's if you have a felony and you have no college degree, then that lessens your chances of getting a job, which I'm very grateful for at this point because I don't want a job. I'd rather work for myself or help build a company with somebody and not punch a fucking clock. It's just not my idea of happiness. In fact, I was talking to one of our Arete brothers yesterday, and I think what it's looking like is I'm going to go into business with him with a new venture. And the thing is this, we were talking about, the structure and the pay structure and something was mentioned about a W-2. And I said, listen, I feel like, an elephant's standing on my heart when you mention the word W-2 because it's been years since I've had a W-2 and I just am not gonna, I don't, if I can help it, and I'm gonna do everything I can do to help it, I won't ever be a W-2 again if I can help it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and nothing against people that do have a W-2 because listen, there's people that make a gazillion dollars that get a W-2. I've just been so used to writing shit off, and I don't want to go down that road for me anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the ultimate goal, right? Because like, if you're, anybody will tell you this: if you're gonna make real money, you got to be your own business. You got to be an entrepreneur. That's really where it's at. And yeah, you saying that, it just kind of leads me into some other things. Like a few weeks ago, I started a business painting, doing artwork and woodworking with one of my friends. And so we got a little side business going on here to where he wants to retire from his position. He's an electrician at a company and he wants that to be full time. Great. I'm going to be a side piece of that business. But yeah, I'm constant. So it's that. There's probably 3 other things I'm kind of working on and another thing that are all just outside of this W-2, this position that I'm working right with my career. Right. But I love what I do. Right. I love it. I love being a sales officer for this company. They're great to me. And I've traveled the world, dude. Like I've sold products in over 15 countries, 5 continents. Like I've had so many life experiences from this. So it's so fun. So I'm doing that. And then I'm trying to be an entrepreneur in that same space as well too.
Well, so Justin, I have to ask you, did you start this other business because of all this fucking craziness going on right now? Is it
It's
safe to
funny. I I can't travel for my job, and that's what I do is I travel and see people. And so I actually bought a marketing course, online marketing course, because like, well, where do I struggle, right? Because I want to use the opportunity to strengthen myself. And so I looked out, and it was basically it's internet advertising. I don't know a lot about it. I hire people that do that. So I was like, I'm gonna learn it myself. So I took a 30-day course, learned it myself, started running internet ads. And during this process, I was talking to him one day, and he brought out some cutting boards that were really, really cool and unique. And so I started thinking, well, I'm an artist, so I'm like, well, can we do cutting boards and can we do serving trays? And I'll paint on the serving trays, and we can put epoxy on them, be completely unique, one off every time, and then we'll sell these. And man, dude, we launched the business in the first week and sold out. Boom, gone. I mean, like it was like $1,000 for the product, but still, first week
Dang.
gone. So yeah. So now we're already selling orders, so we have to put in delivery lead times because we'll never catch up.
Dude, that's a fucking great
Yeah,
problem to have.
I know. Yeah.
Man, that's fantastic. Oh, so I wouldn't have pegged you as an artist.
Yeah, so yeah, I do abstract art, man. Yeah, I'll send you some photos of some stuff I do. Yeah, I paint on canvas. It's abstract art. I've been painting for about 9 years.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. I don't know if I have the
Me,
patience, my man. I just don't know if I have the patience. I sure as hell don't have
I,
I sure as hell don't have the eye coordination. I can tell you that.
I do pop 2 bottles of wine, put some music on, and
And it's all over after that.
that's it, man. Creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy, man. That's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
so cutting boards and serving, like what kind of serving trays? Like, give me an example of what you mean by that.
Yeah, so charcuterie boards will be one of them, right? So serving trays, whether you got fruit on it or you got cheese,
Hmm.
um, and crackers, things like that. So it's like it's a really high end product that's, if you're an artsy type person or you want something different, you have a tray that you can carry out, and it's a talking piece too, right?
Sure. Sure. Now, do you hand paint them?
Yeah.
Wow. How long does it take you to paint one of your serving trays or one of the cutting boards, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so it depends what the design's going to be because I use a few different mediums and some things that'll go on top of it. So I mean, it could take anywhere from 3 to 5 days probably to paint one, and that just depends on the level that I put on top of it, how much paint I got to put into it. I mean, I could paint one in one day, but to do one the way I like to do it, probably take me about 4.
Now, is it because you do it in sections, or what? Or you just feel? Why one day or 4 days?
So like when you use different mediums, what a medium is like a material that's kind of you can harden up. So it can harden up like concrete, or
Oh,
so number one, that takes 2 days to dry. So that'll have to dry. Then you got to paint it. So sometimes there's levels of paint that has to go on top that will lengthen that time that it takes to paint one.
oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you what you meant by medium. Did not know what you meant by that, but
Mm-hmm.
now I do. Okay,
Yeah.
very cool, dude.
Otherwise, I can just throw some paint on it, let it dry, more paint, let it dry, more paint, and then one day I can have one knocked out.
That's super cool, man. That's super
Yeah.
cool. And now he puts the epoxy on it. You said epoxy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's clear epoxy. So, because what we don't want is that 3D. You still get the visualization of the 3D effect.
Okay.
So you can still see the paint how it rolls. But obviously, if you're setting stuff on it, you don't want to set on bare paint, and it'll move. It won't be level. So we put the clear epoxy on it, and then it has a hard surface.
Very nice. Now, where do you see this going? Just out of curiosity, with the time that you have to spend on the painting portion, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, can you scale this?
Yeah, well, where we're wanting to go is really high end tables. That'll be probably the next step. So our goal is to really master this area, this kind of the product line, and then roll it into large tables to where we're going to be, these tables cost $20,000 and $40,000. So
Ooh.
that will be that's the plan for the scale of the business. Yeah. Is to grow into that market. So, in order to be able for him to make this his full time, he's going to have to do that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you mind me asking, like, what a cutting board costs then if a damn table costs 40 grand?
Yeah, no, cutting boards are between $75 and $150, depending on the size of them. And then the serving trays, the serving trays 150 to 225.
Okay, so not astronomical. This table you're talking about being 20 or 40 grand is something intricate. This is a special order that somebody really wants, that something really detailed and personal, right?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, or a business, commercial, hotels or restaurants, something like that.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That makes sense. That makes total sense. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool. So what have you been doing? I assume you've got a gym at home, but I also assume you go to a gym. What have you been doing? Because I know you work out like crazy.
Yeah. So fortunately, during this time, as we kind of saw it coming, of course, I'm a bodybuilder. We talked about that a little bit. One of my teammates and a good friend of mine, he's a doctor, and we basically, he had some physical therapy equipment, and we took some other equipment. I took some stuff over, and we just set up a space in his garage, and we made a legit home gym. And we wipe it down. We get there, we work out, we wipe it down, we leave. It's an interesting process, but we've kept it together in between the time. So hopefully next few weeks, West Virginia is going to be opening back up. It looks like 2-3 weeks we'll be able to get back in the gym. But yeah, man, I've not missed a beat. And I had a bodybuilding show in July. It got moved to October. So it was interesting. I was like 10 weeks out when the show got moved. So I went from a complete starting to cut phase to a bulking phase. So it's interesting. It's my first national show because I qualified nationally last year. So
Okay.
my intentions, right, are to get a pro card this year. So I want to be a professional athlete as well.
Which show is the one that you're referring to?
Yeah, so it's in October. It's in Pittsburgh. It's called the Master Nationals.
Okay. Cool. A good friend of mine, Tony Freeman, I'm sure you know the name Tony Freeman.
Yep.
He one of the most amazing dudes you've ever met. Like, I really didn't understand the caliber of a dude I was talking to when I was talking to him until he told me that he had won. He was like top 5 in the whole world for like a decade. And I'm like, damn, like that's crazy. Like what you guys have to put yourselves through. And one thing I want you to talk about is the bulking and the cutting phase, because, I'm sure a lot of my listeners may know what that means, but I guess there's probably some that don't. So talk about that for a moment. If you don't mind, the food intake and the massive amount of food intake.
Yeah, so I'll roll out to where right at this moment. So I'm eating 4,000 calories a day right now. That entails 6 meals. So I eat 6 meals a day. I eat every 2.5, 3 hours. So I start at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm eating until midnight. I mean, that's pretty much how it rolls out. Don't enjoy any meal. So sometimes I enjoy breakfast, but you don't enjoy any of the meals. But it's the process, right? You have the goal, and it's like, well, this is what I have to do to get to that goal. And for me, like bodybuilding is just like anything else in business. It's like, well, what do you have to go through to get that? Okay, I'll do that. I'll go through that. Like whatever it's going to take, that's what I'm going to do, right? And so for me, it's just a transition of, okay, this is bodybuilding. Here are the rules. You have to eat this. Okay. You have to train this way. Okay. And it's just going through that process. And then it'll drastically change. So we'll say come July, I'll start reversing off of my diet. I'll go into more of a cut phase, we call it. And, I'll trim my calories way down. I'll eventually get to 1,000, 1,400 calories a day while I'm burning the same amount, maybe more. But that's toward the end of like toward the show, right? And my cardio increases. Doing 35 minutes as soon as I wake up before I eat, to where I'll be go through my day. Then I do my 2-hour training session, and then I'll do another 30 minutes at night. And then I still got to get food in, and be a dad, and be a husband, and do my job. So it's difficult. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of therapy maybe that goes into it with me too, right? It's like, for me, it's like those 2 hours I can kind of escape from everything. But yeah, so it's the bulking goes one way. It's heavy food, to where the cutting, you get to where you're hungry. You ate and you're like, okay, in 3 hours I can eat again, and you're already thinking about that meal.
Damn. So one thing that you said, what I thought was interesting, and Ed has said this just recently, said that, one thing about being successful is that you do the same boring shit over and fucking over. And that's just part of it. And what you just said is exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Corey. Yeah, it's everything we do, right? It's just like, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. Okay, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. And whether it's invoicing, it's I love being in front of people and selling products to people. So when I can't do that, I'm like, this isn't fun. Well, it's not always going to be fun, right? But if you want to be successful, if you want to sell really big and have relationships with people and be good at it, then you got to do all the little stuff, the day-to-day stuff that takes care of all those people. It takes care of your position and what has to happen.
Yeah. So, that leads me to my next question. And, so what have you done to make sure that you're, the people that you do normally go and see in your company, what have you done during this time to make sure they feel like you give a fuck about them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. So so a few things. One, like random text, or I'll send them funny memes. I'll call them. I ask about their family. But we FaceTime, right? And so I've got 2 of them that we set up. We have a bi-weekly call where we 3 of us, we go buy the same bottle of wine and we rotate who picks the wine. And then, all right, and then we drink that bottle of wine together on a Zoom call. So it's like, okay, what do you think about the wine? So it's giving us reason to get together, to talk outside of work, but staying in front of that customer, right? And so doing that, send them gifts, send them little gifts, let them know I think of them. For me, it's like relationships are really important. For me, if you have a relationship with someone, you really don't have to sell them anything. Does that make sense?
To me, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
To me, it makes total sense. So, one of the things that we've done, kind of sidebar from that, is, and it kind of goes back to what you were doing during your training and stuff during this time. Autumn and I, and my wife, Autumn, which, by the way, your wife, or well, it is your wife, correct?
Right.
She's also a bodybuilder, correct?
She is, yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to talk about that also in a minute. But one thing that we did when this whole thing kind of started, I was, I felt like I was dialed in, but then I got undialed real fucking quick. Mm-hmm. And it's just not really like me to get that way. And so my wife volunteered me on a Zoom call in front of 4 or 5 other people to do a 5-day water fast. And so being the egotistical person that I am, I had to say yes. And so we did that. But I'll tell you what, Justin, it was one of the hardest, other than getting sober, it was probably one of the hardest damn things I've ever done. It was so hard. Mm-hmm. But by the end of that 120 hours, it's changed so much shit in my life. I'm off medications that I've been on for 6 years. Wow. My diet is cleaned up to the point that and we're doing 75 hard also, which we had started before that. And so needless to say, those 5 days were a nightmare. But what it did for me is it was so far the opposite direction as to where I was going, which is what I like. I love
Mm-hmm.
going completely off in left field because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why. I'm just weird like that, I guess. Um, but what it did is it changed my mindset with all this stuff that's going on, and it really helped me to dial in some things that were really important to me.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just like sometimes you just need a change up in order to do that, right? I mean, for me, almost this virus, I don't. It's really cold, but I want to say it's a blessing for me because it actually allowed for me to stop moving so much, and it allowed me to focus on some things I was weak at. It allowed me to dial in my training even harder because I was able to work out in the same place, not on the road. I was able to eat my meals easier, not in a vehicle, not, I didn't have to pack all my food. And so I've been able to actually progress in a lot of ways due to something, due to a change like that, right? And sometimes it just takes things like that to change the way we think because we get stuck in the everyday process of just, okay, doing this, right?
for sure. Let me ask you, do you think moving forward that your position before all this shit will change as far as like how much you're traveling, and do you think, for example, like Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's using Zoom, and so do you think you'll use Zoom, for example, in place of maybe taking a trip to wherever?
Nah, probably not. Not for me. I'm a very where like when I say like relationships, like I feel like you have to be in front of someone to do that, right? And you gotta touch their arm, their shoulder, give them a hug, right? Like see them laugh together, whether you're drinking or having a good meal together, you can build a relationship completely different when you're doing it that way. So the moment this thing opens up, man, like I got a trip in Colombia, Mexico, Arizona, Montana. Like I'm biting. I can't wait to get out and start working on some relationships again.
Yeah. So okay. So that I'm glad you said it that way. How you know? So everybody knows, whether they want to fucking admit it or not. If you live with another person, a partner, a wife, a husband, that you know shit got a little challenging cooped up in the same house if you're not typically cooped. When we are, that's just it. We are usually cooped up in the same house, but when there's that restriction, there's that added stress that comes
Mm-hmm.
along with all this stuff. How have you guys? And forgive me, just what is your wife's name?
Felicia.
Felicia?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I think it was something entirely different?
Yeah, because her Instagram account used to be Daughter of Paige. So a lot of
There.
people think they think it's Paige, but Daughter of Paige. That's her mom's name.
Gotcha. You're
Yeah.
right. That's exactly what
Yeah.
I thought, and I knew that was the name. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
how has it been for the two of you? Because you're always gone.
Yeah, every other week I'm gone, right? And so, but she would like me here. We have a really good relationship to where we're really friends, So we've been together now for 4 years, and we both came from a broken marriage. We're kind of the person didn't really appreciate us or respect us the way that we should have been. And so before we found each other, we both had set our expectations of, hey, here's what it's going to take to find someone. If they're not this person, I'm not interested, right? And so we were both like basically willing to walk away at any given moment, and then finally found out that, well, there's nothing about her I didn't like and nothing about me she didn't like. And so we quickly became really good friends. And yeah, so like to answer your question though, we had maybe 3 or 4 days when the whole thing, we were stuck at home together, and it was like, well, you left something on the counter and you weren't going to get it. And I'm like, well, usually you're not here, and I get that at lunchtime. So it was like,
Right.
you're leaving your stuff, and I'm like, well, I kind of didn't, but I did. and, and and yeah, so it was like little things like that. Then it was kind of like, okay, we started to like just get in each other's schedule. But it's nice that like she can walk by and I see her out of my office. We get done working, we go train together. So yeah, it's nice. I'm taking the moment to really appreciate being home more because I do know that I'm going to be back on the road again. So I'm really just trying to appreciate that a lot
Absolutely, and that makes complete sense. But this funny, I'm so glad that you articulated it that way, because I didn't look at our little, my wife and ours little tiffs before we did our fast. But you're
Mhm.
right. It was stupid. It was so stupid shit. Like you left something out, and I didn't even think about it. Like, well, this is not our normal schedule. I didn't even
Yeah.
look at it like that at all. What a different perspective.
Yeah, it's because maybe I left it out, but I was going to actually get it in 4 hours. Nobody's ever here. It's just me.
Yeah,
I'm working from the house by myself. So yeah.
yeah, that makes complete sense. So, are you you've got kids, yeah,
Yeah. So
and
yeah, I've got 3 kids and a stepson. So she's got a son, and I've got 3. Yeah.
now are they all under the same roof?
Man, you're opening a big bag, man. so, so my 15-year-old daughter, yeah, she is here. And then her son is traveling back and forth. He is 10. He would like to live here when he's 12. So he comes during the summers and holidays. And then my other 2, they come every other weekend. And
Okay, gotcha.
then alternating some other days and holidays. But yeah.
Yeah. So my daughter is not biologically my daughter, but I've raised her since she was
Mm-hmm.
4 years old, and I mean, to her, I'm daddy,
Mm-hmm.
and but she now her biological father's in her life, and so she's that has their schedule hasn't changed much. But the reason I ask is because I was talking to the wife of the guy I was mentioned earlier yesterday, and she was saying that his daughter, the mom, his ex-wife, my buddy's ex-wife, won't allow their kid together to come over to their house because of the fear of the damn one of the smaller kids getting the virus and her bringing it back.
Yeah.
Which is fucking stupid if you ask me, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's got to be some level of trust. Like with my 2 kids that go back and forth, there's a good understanding of, hey, we trust each other's living habits and what we're around, things like that. I mean, it's probably different in every occasion, but yeah, we've got some pretty good trust that hasn't been affected.
Yeah, yeah. So, so has your business? We talked about your position in the business,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure if we discussed exactly what the business is. Did you?
Yeah, so no, we haven't done that. We manufacture electrical equipment, so it's electrical houses, transformers, substations, um, electronic relays. I'm trying to not get super techie on you here. That's a big nerd coming out of me. But yeah, so we service the mining industry. So it's coal, gold, copper, salt, potash, iron, um, and then the light rail industry. So subways. So if you ever go to New York and ride the subway, we would build some of the equipment, rectifiers and relays that protect the trains and some things like that. So we do a little bit in that market. We build a lot of electrical equipment that go down to Disney World in Florida. So all the DC rectifiers, AC DC equipment. If you're running on their machines, our stuff operates that. So it's kind of a cool little project. But yeah, so it's mostly mining and then the tunneling and traction power stuff.
Okay, so that's interesting. I had to go down to. I didn't have to go. It's a long story, but I went down to Orlando a couple of weeks ago, and I stayed right there in Disney, and it was just so weird to be there and it not nothing being open. It was just surreal. It was the most. It was such an odd experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually it's a mob down there, and now
Yeah,
like a desert, and I don't even know if they're opening back up this year.
I don't know either. Yeah, this is a once in a lifetime experience. Like
Dude,
nobody's ever experienced this. No one's ever
uh-uh.
experienced this. Yeah.
And probably in our lifetime we will never see. I mean, we're living in the most historical probably thing that's happened that we'll ever know about. One
I
of
agree.
them for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. Like, this is going to go down in history books for the next 100 years.
It will. Yeah, it will.
It's insane, man. It is absolutely insane. And who, God only knows what to expect. You know, I can't even speculate because I don't, you know, to be honest, I don't watch the news. I don't read a damn newspaper. I don't even get news to my phone because I just don't believe any of it.
I don't either. I'm saying I quit watching the news 4 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, you know, and then you get little snippets of this and what's going on at this moment. And for me, I none of it's factual. So I just have to not listen to it, plug it out. You know, I talk to doctors. I see what the hospitals are doing. And I just kind of make my own feelings based on people I know in the hospitals, the doctors, and what they know. They're smart dudes, you know. So I listen to them. And that's how I make my own opinion.
For sure. For sure. Well, you know, it's interesting. I have a buddy that, you know, let me see how to say this. Well, he lives up in Michigan, and he's, you know, to hear him talk about this shit, you would think the world was burning the fuck down. I mean, people are dying left and right, and I'm just like, I'm not sure where you get all this information because, like, I don't even think the mainstream media is saying shit like that.
Yeah, I know some hospitals, maybe I got some friends that are nurses in certain hospitals that it's worse than others. So, I mean, I maybe ultimately in some areas that are, you know, they have more problems than others, but ultimately it doesn't seem to me what I've experienced or what I've seen. It's not what it's being portrayed as.
Well, no, and you know, H1N1. And I totally, God, I could kick myself. I don't remember the statistic, but it was. I mean, it was some number like 10 times more than what this is going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, you remember that the swine flu.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no telling if the truth may not ever come out, but if it does, God only knows what that looks like.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I know. I will say that at least from an economic standpoint for my business, you know, we're not seeing much effect. Where it's affecting us is from the supplier issue. So whether we have like a subcomponent, maybe that company is not considered essential, and so they shut their doors. And so my engineers are constantly out trying to find new manufacturers for products, and some of our products may come from Europe, some may come from China, and to go into our complete system, and it's delayed projects. You know, I was supposed to ship a project mid last month, and I'm shipping it next week. You know, it's caused me a 4-week delay on a project that, you know, it's like a $400,000 project that's now delayed a month. And the mine is still operating. So that's the thing, is like they still need it. They understand, but that's how it's impacting our business.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I guess because I'm not in that industry, I don't even think about stuff like that. But really, if the mining industry is still, you know, pumping as hard as they were, and they have something that is considered a non-essential, like what you're talking about, go down, well, then what does that leave them? Kind of empty-handed.
It does. I mean, you got to find other people to be able to supply it. I mean, you know, it's kind of the same thing like we were talking about earlier. I use this analogy a lot for my salespeople, is that, you know, if my truck's broken down and I take it to AutoZone and they don't have the part to fix it, I'm going to go to Advanced Auto Parts, right? And if they have the part to fix it, I'm going to use it and fix my truck. Now, most likely next time my truck breaks down, I'm going to Advanced Auto Parts first because they help me, right? And so it's that do whatever it takes to help people. So these mines operating, they're going to do whatever it takes. So if you're not the one helping them, they'll find someone to help them. And then the next time they'll go back to that person. So, you know, you have to, that's part of creating a relationship too, is like, I want you to come to me. I will help you, you know, and I tell people that. I'm dead honest with them. Like, look, I'm the guy. You have a problem, I'm the guy. Electrical, I'll fix it. But yeah, so.
Well,
I was gonna say, I had a meeting with a customer this morning, and they're operating 50% less capacity, and it's because their trains have to go through Vancouver to go to port and then get to Japan. Can't get trains to Vancouver, so their 50% capacity can't fulfill their contracts right now.
Why can't they go to Vancouver?
Canada's got it shut down. They can't get the trains across the border to get to port to ship it out.
You're kidding. I did not. Of course, I didn't know that because I don't watch the news. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Well, yeah, it's not on the news, right? But if you ask these guys, because I asked him, I'm like, well, we had a big multi-million-dollar project coming up, and he said, no, we got to push that out. I was like, oh. I was like, well, what's the impact for that? And he explained it to me, and I was like, dang, no way. Yeah, the port. They can't get the train support to get the product out.
Because they're afraid of transferring more of the virus, right? I'm assuming.
It has to be, yeah. I mean, it has to be. It's the only thing, because this was never a problem before. Yeah.
That's insane, man. That is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that about Advanced Auto and AutoZone. I was asking my wife the other day, we were driving by, there was a fucking line, I mean, a mile long coming out of Dunkin' Donuts. And I said to her, I said, you know, because a lot of the Starbucks around here, there's select ones that are open. And I said, you know, Starbucks has shut a lot of their stores down, but Dunkin' Donuts, there are lines out the back. I said, do you think that people will stay with Dunkin' Donuts after this shit's over with? Or do you think that people are going to be so ready to get out and try something different or to do something different because they've been stuck with this newfound Dunkin' Donuts? I think it could go either way. But what do you think about that? You know, what do you think is, as a customer of a place, what would you do?
Yeah, I think anytime a situation like that happens, that you're going to lose consumers, right? They're going to transition because there's things like that they don't forget, or they may not, their belief system, right, is going to be different. And who was it? Ah, man, I thought I was listening to, it was Ed. Yeah, Ed had on his story the other day. He was talking about brands, and he was like, look, let's face it. So regardless of political reasons, if you're a Democrat, you wear the brand, right? If you're a Republican, you wear the brand. Regardless of what happens, you vote for the brand. So you're going to have Starbucks people and Dunkin' Donuts people. They're going to go back to their brand once they can have it, right? So, but that middle piece, the people that may believe or not believe, you're going to get people that don't care. You're going to get people that are going to say, hey, you know what? I don't agree with you guys shutting down like that. So I'm just taking my business somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean,
for me, that's kind of how I would feel about it, I believe. If it was that important to me, it's not, you know, either one of those stores are not important to me whatsoever. But if they were, and DD was the one that were open right now, and they're the ones that are fulfilling what I need personally, I'm probably going to stick with them because they were there for me.
That's right. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And so then my wife said, she said, you know, I didn't know you could get a shot of espresso for $1.50 at Dunkin' Donuts. And I went, isn't it like $3 or whatever at Starbucks? And she said, yeah. I said, well, fuck, that's huge for them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who would have thought? So, you know, it's such an interesting time, dude. It's such an interesting time. So let's go back for a minute and talk about you. So you and Felicia, you guys, do you train together usually?
Some days. So it depends on how our training splits go. So she's a bikini competitor. I'm a men's physique competitor. So, you know, the way we're judged, I have to have a V shape. So I have to have big shoulders, big back, you know, and then a small taper, right? They don't judge legs. I work out legs, but they don't judge legs. For her, hers is her glutes and her legs makes basically her shape. So she does a lot of leg training. She trains legs 3 days a week. I train them 1 day a week. And then, so in the off season, we typically will work out together, but when we're training for a show, it's really difficult too. Yeah, it's really hard.
That's so interesting. And granted, I'm not immersed in the bodybuilding industry, but I know a little. I know some about it, but
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that physique. When they judge for physique, I didn't know that men and women were. I mean, I knew there was obviously a difference, but I didn't know literally the whole bottom half and the whole upper half are. The male
Mm-hmm.
is the top and the female is the bottom. I did not know that.
Yeah, for that division. I mean, like you got to be toned for like her. She's got to have toned arms, and her abs have to be toned. But she can't have too much muscle because it has to be a bikini look. Because if she has too much muscle, or if she's too hard, then she should be more of a figure competitor, a woman's figure competitor. To where, like for me, if I'm big legs and really, really, really big, and I don't have that V shape, then they're going to say, "Hey, you need to go move on into bodybuilding. You shouldn't be a men's physique. You don't fit the rules, right?"
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How much different is her diet as a woman doing, similar program, just
Mm-hmm.
different body parts? How is it different than how you eat, so to speak?
As long as we're bulking together, it's similar, less calories. And
Okay.
so we've done a good job, basically, like my coach and her coach, and saying, okay, here's his plan or here's her plan, and then they'll work protein and carbs and greens. They'll work ours around each other, so that way we can meal prep chicken, fish, sirloin, beef. We can eat the same things, just smaller portions for her, bigger portions for me.
Okay, so now let me ask you this, and it's coming off the heels of me just putting out Sean Baker's podcast, but he's a carnivore guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have what typically, from my understanding and talking with several people that have been in this industry, people, but you guys eat, like you just said, chicken, fish, sirloin, fucking rice, and then what else? Like, and could you? Whew, tough question, but could you even fathom going carnivore?
As far as
Straight carnivore.
I mean, I gotta have carbs. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to bulk and build muscle without carbs. I got to have a certain amount of carbs, certain amount of protein, and then a little bit of greens. If I'm going to bulk and get big, I have to go heavy calories and then be able to pull that back off. So, I mean, I can go without carbs in a cutting cycle. Need a little bit of carbs. You really still need some because you got to be able to pump the muscle. Um, but yeah, I got to have a lot of carbs. I do to bulk.
Well,
Yeah.
and carbs for brain health.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Dr. Amen, who was on Ed's show,
Mm-hmm.
talks about carbohydrates feed the fucking brain.
Man, I tell you, it's true because when I'll be in like my last 4 weeks of a show prep, I'm foggy. I'm forgetful. I I get irritated easy. Yeah, I mean, you can't think clearly. It's really strange because you're very carb depleted. It is very, very strange of like how much you're forgetting and it's not there.
Dude,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. Okay. So that's exactly that 5-day fast that we did. I told my wife this morning, I said, if I would have had important calls that week, I'd have been fucked because
Yeah.
I couldn't think straight. Like it was the oddest feeling in my head. It was just, and
Hmm.
maybe, closer to the end, it got a little clearer. Maybe that was because I knew I had food coming. I don't know. But, it is, you're right. It is an interesting fog, interesting, just kind of slows everything down. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
how in the world do you function at work, nor like you would normally function?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be tough.
Dude, for those 4 weeks, I had to write everything down. I had to write everything down. Then I had a few people that I was just like, look, I will call and be like, hey, can you help me with this? I'll be like, I'm probably going to forget, and I basically laid it out for them. And I'm like, these few weeks, I'm going to need some help. But yeah,
That's
it's
smart.
true. It's true, man, because You forget so much. It's really, really crazy. And you won't even know you forgot it until somebody says something. You're like, oh, I guess I did. I guess I forgot that. It's just not even like it happened. It's really strange, the brain side of it, of how you go through it.
No question about it. And, just so everybody understands, like, this is not something you do this is what you do. You do this for fun. This is not
It's
like,
fun.
this is not like your job. This is just something you do for fun, which is
Do it for fun, man.
makes it even cooler if you ask me,
Yeah.
You're not in it for the money. You're not in it you're just in it because of the competition, the challenge.
I tell you what, 4 years ago, I was 205 pounds, had the dad bod, right? And I was getting out of about 5 years ago, I was getting out of a marriage. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't happy with how I looked in the mirror. And I was like, I want to have abs. That was it. I want to have abs. I trained myself. I researched, trained myself. I got abs. All right. Then I was like 185. And I was like, well, fuck. I don't know what to do now. Now what do? I got abs, but whatever. So I hired a coach, and he got me a little bit of ways. And I was like, I think I want to compete. And you had asked me this earlier, actually. The reason I started competing was because of my wife. She competed 2 years before me. I just like to work out. And then I was like, well, I guess I could do a show. So then I hired a few coaches, and they fit the need. And then I got bigger and bigger and better and kept advancing. Dude, I just grew this passion and love for it. Loved how I looked in the mirror. I loved the control aspect of it and how it would change. And it's crazy to look at the picture I had from 205 pounds to a picture I had at 205 pounds with muscle and less fat. Like, it's two different people. It's crazy the amount. Like, I look terrible. And that was the whole reason. I was just like, I just want abs. That was it. Just want abs. And then next thing I know, it blew up into this. I'm sitting here 225 pounds with a plan to get 240 pounds in the next 3 months. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how you can lock in and just grow passion for something and then just give it whatever you got. Because whatever I'm putting in is what I'm gonna get out, right? So it's,
Yeah.
I say this a lot of times. So it's basically foot on gas and head out of ass. That's my whole saying. So if you're gonna do it, you freaking do it, man.
Yeah, I totally get that. 100%. Well, listen, Justin, we got to wrap up, my man. Can you let everybody know that, first of all, dude, this has been such a great conversation. I've loved any conversation that I have a time to talk with you. I've always enjoyed it. So thank you. I appreciate you spending the time with me to come on today and share your story with my audience. And can you just let everybody know where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Instagram, it's last name _ first name. So TIDD _ Justin. On Instagram, it's the best. Don't use Facebook a ton. Instagram's the best place.
Awesome. Well, listen, my man, I want to thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time, and have an awesome day, brother.
All right, man. You too. Thank you.
Yes, sir.